The containment breach alarm split the silence of Observation Deck 7 like a scream. Queen Valora's secondary hearts lurched as emergency lights bathed the reinforced viewing chamber in crimson. Beyond the transparent barrier, something moved in the shadows of the maximum security enclosure, something that had no business being conscious, let alone mobile. "Seal the inner corridors," Valora commanded, her voice steady despite the ice spreading through her veins. Her royal guard, Commander Thex, was already moving, his forearms flowing across the security console with practiced efficiency. "The Crevathi are loose, Your Majesty. All 7 of them. The galaxy's apex predators. Each one capable of tearing through reinforced hull plating. Each one utterly fearless, driven by hunger that knew no satisfaction. They'd been sedated for transport, scheduled for execution after their rampage across 3 colonies left 4,000 dead. How long until they breached this chamber? 6 minutes. Maybe 5. Thex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a tell he couldn't suppress. "The viewing barrier will hold for 3. The child was only 40 cycles old, barely old enough to understand death, certainly too young to witness it. Valora's protective instincts warred with her training. A queen does not flee. A queen does not show fear. But a mother protects her child." "Evacuation protocols," Valora began. "Blocked. They're in the corridors. We're boxed in." Thex's primary hands never stopped moving across the controls, searching for solutions that didn't exist. "I've sent the distress beacon. Nearest military response is 18 minutes out." Through the barrier, Valora could see them now. The Crevathi moved with horrible grace, each one 3 meters of corded muscle and serrated bone plates. Their 6 eyes gleamed with cold intelligence. They weren't mindless beasts. That was what made them truly terrifying. They understood fear. They cultivated it. One of them noticed the observation deck. Its eyes locked onto Valora's. It smiled. "Mama?" Kessa's voice was small. "What are those?" "Hush, little moon." Valora pulled her daughter closer, feeling the rapid flutter of the child's hearts against her side. The Crevathi began moving toward the barrier, not running.
"Walking."
They had time and they knew it. "Your Majesty, if they breach, I need you behind me. I can hold them for perhaps 30 seconds. Use that time to reach the emergency shaft." "That shaft is 40 meters of vertical climb, Thex. With my daughter." "Then start climbing now. I'll buy you whatever time I can." Valora looked at her guard commander. They'd served together for 20 years. She knew the mathematics of this sacrifice as well as he did. "No, we find another way. There is no other way." One of them placed a clawed hand against the transparent surface, testing it, calculating. "Incoming vessel," the computer announced in its maddeningly calm voice.
"Unscheduled?"
"Requesting emergency docking clearance." "Deny it," Thex snapped, or locked it, cutting through the station hull. The computer paused, an oddity that made Valora's skin prickle. "They're human. Humans." Valora had heard of them. The galaxy's newest spacefaring species, barely a century out of their home system. Aggressive traders. Unpredictable. The Galactic Council was still debating whether they represented a threat or an opportunity. "How many?" 4 life signs. They're entering the station through airlock 12. That's 3 corridors from our position. 3 corridors that were currently filled with Crevathi. "Tell them to retreat," Valora ordered. "Tell them the station is compromised. They're not responding to hails. They're moving toward us. Toward the Crevathi." The barrier began to crack. A hairline fracture, spreading like lightning frozen in glass. The Crevathi pulling its hand back, preparing for another strike. "Mama, I'm scared." "Close your eyes." But Kessa was looking past her mother. At the security feed, Thex had pulled up. 4 figures moved through the corridor with fluid purpose. They wore armor that looked almost primitive compared to standard military gear. Bulky, angular, covered in scratches and dents, that spoke of hard use. They carried weapons that seemed laughably small. They walked directly toward 7 Crevathi like they were going for an evening stroll. The lead human, Valora, could see the designation Martinez stenciled on the armor, stopped at an intersection. 3 Crevathi blocked the path ahead. The human tilted its head, studying them. Then it laughed. The sound crackled through the security feed, and Valora felt something fundamental shift in her understanding of the universe. No sane creature laughed in the face of a Crevathi, no creature with survival instincts. The Crevathi attacked. They were fast, faster than anything their size had right to be. The corridor should have become a slaughterhouse in seconds. Instead, the humans moved. They didn't retreat. They didn't even hesitate. They flowed around the attacks like water, their weapons barking sharp reports that echoed through the feed. The Cravathi, the unstoppable, the fearless, the galaxy's nightmare, staggered. Another roared in pain and confusion. The humans advanced. Impossible, Thex breathed. The barrier cracked further. The Cravathi on their side renewed their assault, but something had changed. They kept glancing back at the corridor. Their movements had lost their casual confidence. For the first time in recorded history, Valora watched Cravathi display hesitation. The humans kept coming. The second Cravathi died with a precision that horrified Valora more than the violence itself. The human called Martinez put 3 rounds through its primary neural cluster from 15 meters while moving laterally to avoid its dying lunge. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Just cold, efficient death. The third Cravathi tried to flee. Another human, Chen, according to the armor designation, cut it off. The creature was twice Chen's size and armed with natural weapons that could shred steel. Chen carried only a long blade and a sidearm. The Cravathi lunged. Chen sidestepped, moved inside its reach, and drove the blade up through the soft tissue beneath its jaw. The creature's momentum carried it forward, impaling itself deeper. Chen held the blade steady until the thrashing stopped, then planted a boot against the corpse and yanked the weapon free. Jesus Christ, a third human muttered. Williams, the designation read. These things really are ugly up close. They were joking. They were hunting the galaxy's apex predators, and joking about it. The 4 remaining Cravathi on Valora's side of the barrier had stopped their assault. They stood motionless, watching the security feed that Tex had apparently broadcasted to every screen in the section. Their heads swiveled between the approaching humans and the trapped royals behind the cracking barrier. Valora recognized the calculation in their eyes. The same calculation that had let Cravathi survive and dominate across 100 worlds. They were deciding if she was still the easier prey.
The humans reached the final corridor, all 4 of them.
Not even breathing hard. Their armor was splashed with dark ichor, their weapons held with casual competence that spoke of muscle memory worn deep. Martinez stopped at the corner holding up a closed fist. The others halted immediately, weapons tracking different angles, covering each other's blind spots with automatic precision. They'd done this before, many times. Got 4 more tangos, Martinez said, his voice carrying through the security feed. Big bastards. They're focused on something behind that barrier. Civilian presence confirmed. I count 2 adults, 1 juvenile. Rules of engagement? Chen asked. Same as always. We're the scary thing in the dark. Martinez's voice carried dark amusement. Let's remind these overgrown lizards what the food chain actually looks like. The Cravathi saw them and everything changed. Valora had studied xenobiology, had reviewed countless reports on Cravathi behavior. They operated on instinct refined through millions of years of evolution. They assessed threats through size, claw length, fang size, armor thickness. By every measure that mattered in their biological programming, these humans should have registered as prey. But evolution hadn't prepared the Cravathi for creatures that hunted for sport. For beings that climbed to the top of their food chain through cunning and tools and sheer, bloody-minded determination rather than tooth and claw. The humans weren't bigger. They weren't stronger. They weren't faster. They were simply better at killing. The first Cravathi charged. The humans scattered, not in panic but in practice coordination. Williams dropped to one knee and put a burst into the creature's leg. It stumbled. Chen was already there, blade finding the weak point where armor plates met flesh. Cravathi! Screamed, a sound that made Kessa whimper and burrow deeper against her mother's side. Martinez and the fourth human, Rodriguez, engaged the other three. They moved like dancers, like they'd rehearsed this choreography 1,000 times. Rodriguez went high while Martinez went low. They drove the Cravathi into each other, turned their strength into a liability in the narrow corridor. "Mama, why aren't the monsters winning?" Kessa whispered. Valora had no answer. She could only watch as humanity redefined her understanding of predation. The Cravathi were dying, but they were learning. They tried to coordinate, to use their superior numbers and size. One of them managed to pin Williams against the wall, jaws opening wide to tear out the human's throat. Williams jammed his rifle into those jaws and fired until the magazine ran dry. The Cravath's head exploded from the inside. Williams shoved the corpse away, spat blood, his own or the creature's, Valora couldn't tell, and kept fighting. "These things took out 3 colonies?" Rodriguez said between controlled bursts of fire. "No wonder the galaxy's scared of everything." They've gone soft. Valora understood. The casual dismissal of creatures that represented galactic nightmares, delivered while actively killing them, it was too much for his mind to process. The last Cravathi on their corridor died trying to retreat. Chen shot it in the back. No honor in it, no hesitation, just practical application of superior firepower. The corridor fell silent, except for the drip of cooling ichor and the steady breathing of the humans. They weren't even winded. They reloaded their weapons with practiced efficiency, checked each other for injuries with quick professional movements. Martinez walked up to the cracked barrier. Valora found herself standing straighter, pulling Kessa protectively behind her. The human was shorter than her by half a meter, wearing armor that had seen hard service. His face, visible now through the cleared faceplate, was weathered and scarred. His eyes were brown, warm even, completely at odds with what she'd just witnessed. "You folks okay in there?" he asked. His voice was gentle, concerned. Valora's translator struggled with the nuances of human speech, but the intent was clear. "We're unharmed," she managed. "You saved our lives." Martinez shrugged. "Just doing a cargo run." "Heard your distress beacon. Figured we'd lend a hand." He looked at the dead Cravathi with something like disappointment. "Command said these things were supposed to be dangerous. They're the most dangerous predators in known space." Huh. Martinez exchanged glances with his team. "You guys should really get out more. Captain's gonna be pissed we wrecked another station. That's what, 3 this month?" 4, Chen corrected. "You're forgetting the mining colony. That wasn't a wreck. That was an improvement. Place was falling apart anyway." They were chatting, making small talk. Standing in a corridor painted with the remains of creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, and they were making small talk. Valora's perception of humanity underwent a fundamental revision. These weren't the scrappy newcomers the Council debated about. These weren't potential threats to be monitored. These were something the galaxy had never seen before. Predators who'd had to fight for every scrap of survival on a death world, who'd climbed to dominance over creatures far more physically impressive through sheer innovation and will. Predators who viewed the galaxy's nightmares as minor inconveniences. Most terrifying of all, they genuinely didn't seem to understand why everyone else was afraid. The barrier finally gave way with a crystalline scream. Valora pulled Kessa back instinctively, but Martinez was already there, his team forming a protective perimeter between the Royals and any potential threat. The casual competence of it struck her. They'd assessed the situation, identified the civilians, and moved to protect them without orders or discussion. "Easy there," Martinez said, hands visible and empty. "We're friendlies. Well, friendly to you anyway. Those overgrown iguanas might have a different opinion, but they're not really in a position to complain anymore." "Iguanas?" Thex's translator couldn't parse the reference. "Earth lizards. Harmless mostly. Except this one species in the Galapagos that..." Williams cut himself off at Chen's pointed look. "Right. Not the time. Sorry, Captain." "Captain." So Martinez commanded this unit. Valora cataloged the information automatically, her diplomatic training engaging despite the surreal circumstances. "I am Queen Valora of the Ninth Celestial Court," she said, drawing herself to full height. "Protocol demanded proper introductions, even in a corridor soaked with alien blood. This is my daughter, Princess Kessa, and my Royal Guard Commander, Thex. You have our profound gratitude." Martinez blinked, glanced at his team. "A queen. We just saved a queen." He ran a hand through sweat-dampened hair. "That's gonna look great on the after-action report." "Sir." "You don't seem impressed," Valora observed. "Ma'am, no disrespect intended, but we pulled a governor's family out of a collapsed bunker on Kepler 442b last year. His first words were trying to have us arrested for violating airspace protocols. Royalty doesn't hit the same after that." Despite everything, Valora felt her mouth twitch. The sheer audacity of this human treating her rank as just another detail to note and move past. Kessa peeked out from behind her mother, her large eyes fixed on the humans. "You killed the monsters," she said softly. Martinez crouched down, putting himself at eye level with the child. The gesture, the body language of making himself smaller and less threatening, was instinctive and genuine. "We did. They won't hurt you or anyone else again. Everyone says Cravathi are the deadliest things in the galaxy." It didn't reach his eyes, which remained watchful, scanning the corridor for additional threats. "Everyone's wrong about a lot of things. The deadliest thing in any galaxy is whatever decides it needs to survive the most. We just really don't like bullies." He stood, all business again. "Rodriguez, secure the perimeter." Chen, check for any stragglers. Williams, see if you can get their station systems back online. We need to figure out how these things got loose in the first place. The team moved immediately, no acknowledgement needed. Valora watched them work with professional efficiency, noting the way they communicated through glances and minimal hand signals. Military training, but not like any military she'd encountered. Too informal in their banter, too flexible in their tactics. Commander Thex, Martinez said, I'm guessing you've got security protocols. Mind if we access your systems? Just want to make sure there aren't any more surprises waiting. Thex looked to Valora. She nodded. Within moments, Williams had integrated with the station's network, his fingers flying across holographic interfaces that adapted to his input with surprising ease. Well, that's interesting, Williams muttered. These containment cells didn't fail. Someone opened them. Someone with command-level access. The implications hit Valora like physical force. This wasn't an accident, this was assassination. Show me the logs, Thex demanded, his earlier deference to the humans forgotten in the face of this revelation. Williams pulled up the data. The timestamp showed the cell's opening 17 minutes ago. The access code belonged to Station Master Vrix, a career administrator Valora had known for years. Trusted, vetted. Where is Vix now? Valora asked. According to Life Signs, he left the station 12 minutes ago. Private shuttle, already beyond scanning range. Williams looked up. Your Majesty, someone just tried to kill you and made it look like a containment failure. Very professionally, too. If these things had done their job, there'd be no evidence of foul play at all. But they didn't do their job, Chen said, returning from her perimeter check. 'Cause humans showed up. The coincidence wasn't sitting right with Valora either. Why are you here? You said a cargo run, but this station isn't on any major trade routes? Martinez had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Might have been doing some freelance intelligence gathering. Might have heard rumors about a coup attempt against the Ninth Celestial Court. Might have been in the neighborhood to verify those rumors when your distress beacon went off. Freelance intelligence gathering? Valora repeated. You're spies. Technically, we're independent contractors. The spying is more of a side gig. Williams grinned. Pays better than honest work. You're telling me you came here specifically because you suspected an assassination attempt on my person, but you didn't warn me? Would you have believed us? Martinez asked reasonably. Unknown aliens with unverified intelligence about internal Cork politics? You'd have thrown us in a cell or laughed us out of your territory. So we stayed close, waited to see if anything developed. When it did, we responded. The logic was sound, which made it more infuriating. You used me as bait. We used the situation to confirm our intelligence and position assets for rapid response. There's a difference. Martinez met her eyes steadily. And it worked. You're alive. Your daughter's alive. The people who want you dead showed their hand. That's a win by any reasonable metric. My metrics include not being used as an intelligence asset without my knowledge. Fair point. Martinez actually smiled. Want to hire us? We're expensive, but we don't try to feed you to space lizards, which is apparently better than your current security situation. Thex made an affronted sound, but Valora held up a hand. The human had a point. Someone in her inner circle had just tried to kill her and her daughter. Her own security forces had failed to prevent it. Only the intervention of these strange, violent, impossible humans had saved them. And they'd done it without hesitation, without knowing who she was, simply because they'd heard a distress beacon and decided to help. How much? She asked. Martinez blinked. Sorry? You said you're expensive. How much for a security contract? Full protection detail for myself and my daughter until we can determine the extent of the conspiracy against us. The humans exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. 10,000 credits per day, Martinez finally said, plus expenses, hazard pay for anything above standard combat operations, and a bonus structure based on confirmed threats neutralized. Contract term, minimum 1 standard month, renegotiable at 30-day intervals. Valora had military commanders who earned less in a year. Done. I'll also want a full report on your intelligence regarding the coup attempt. The human ship was nothing like Valora had expected. She'd anticipated something sleek and modern, perhaps with that aggressive aesthetic humans seemed to favor in their military designs. Instead, the Nightingale looked like a cargo hauler that had seen better decades. The hull was patchwork repairs, 3 different alloys visible where battle damage had been hastily sealed. The name was stenciled on the side in fading paint, and someone had drawn a crude bird next to it that looked more like a deformed chicken. Home sweet home, Williams announced cheerfully as they approached the airlock. Don't mind the smell in Section C. That's just Rodriguez cooking experiments. It was one time, Rodriguez protested. And how was I supposed to know that Andromedan spice concentrate was flammable? The warning label in 3 galactic languages might have been a clue. Kessa giggled despite her earlier terror. The humans had that effect, Valora was learning. They turned nightmare situations into casual banter, diffused tension through sheer irreverence. It was either a sophisticated psychological technique, or they genuinely didn't understand how serious everything was. She suspected it was both. The interior of the ship matched the exterior, functional but well-worn. Every surface showed signs of heavy use and careful maintenance. The walls were covered in incomprehensible human writing, technical specifications mixed with what appeared to be humor or motivational phrases. Murphy's Law was emblazoned above one doorway. When in doubt, add more explosives, decorated another. Martinez led them to what he called the wardroom, a multi-purpose space that served as dining area, briefing room, and apparently recreational facility based on the gaming equipment shoved against one wall. He pulled up a holographic display that would have been cutting-edge technology a decade ago, but looked primitive compared to current galactic standards. The humans made it work anyway. So here's what we know, Martinez began, pulling up files that made Valora's security instincts scream. These humans had penetrated intelligence networks that were supposed to be impenetrable. Someone's been consolidating power in your court. Over the past 8 months, 17 key administrators and military commanders have been replaced. The replacements all trace back, through various degrees of separation, to Duke Kavros, her cousin. A brilliant administrator, ambitious but never openly hostile. Valora had trusted him with significant responsibilities. That's not proof of treason, Dex said carefully. No, but this is. Chen pulled up financial records. Kavros has been funneling funds through shell corporations to hire off-world mercenaries. Not just any mercenaries. Specialists in political destabilization. The Kravathi weren't supposed to kill you. They were supposed to escape, because chaos and in the confusion someone would slip through your security and eliminate you properly. The Kravathi were just the distraction. Then you killing them didn't actually stop the assassination attempt, Valora said quietly. Correct, which is why we're having this conversation on my ship instead of your station. Your guard commander scanned clean, but we can't vouch for anyone else in your security detail. Until we know who we can trust, you're safer here. It was sound reasoning, which made it terrifying. Valora had lost control of her own security, her own court, possibly her own government. She was a queen in exile on a ship held together with welds and prayer, protected by 4 humans who killed the galaxy's deadliest predators like they were swatting insects. Mama? Kessa tugged her sleeve. Are we going to be okay? Valora looked at her daughter, then at the humans who'd saved them. Martinez met her eyes with that same steady calm he'd shown in the corridor. No false promises, no empty reassurances, just quiet competence. Yes, little moon, we're gonna be okay. Good. Kessa turned to Martinez. Can I see your weapons? They're really cool! Kessa! Valora was mortified, but Martinez laughed. Tell you what, princess, I'll show you the weapons if you promise to take a nap first. It's been a long day and you need rest. I'm not tired, Kessa protested, even as she swayed on her feet. How about this? You rest for 2 hours, then I'll give you a full tour of the ship and show you how humans fight. Deal? Deal. But you have to pinky promise. Pinky promise? Martinez looked at Valora helplessly. It's a human custom, William supplied. You link smallest fingers and shake. It's supposedly unbreakable. Am I, though? Martinez shrugged and linked his finger with Kessa's. Pinky promise. 2 hours of sleep, then weapons and tactics. Satisfied, Kessa allowed herself to be led to one of the crew quarters. Valora followed, noting how the humans had already prepared the space. Clean bedding, environmental controls adjusted to Kessa's species requirements, even a small comfort object that looked suspiciously like a stuffed earth animal. You've done this before, Valora observed. Refugee extractions were a specialty before we went freelance, Martinez said. Kids are kids, no matter what planet they're from. They need safety, routine, and something normal to hold on to. He paused at the door. Get some rest yourself, Your Majesty. We've got watch covered, and tomorrow we start planning how to get your throne back. Bathala watched him go, then settled beside her daughter's bunk. Kessa was already asleep, exhausted by terror and adrenaline crash. The queen allowed herself a moment of weakness, let the fear and uncertainty show on her face now that no one was watching. Except someone was watching. Through the partially open door, she could see Thex standing guard. He'd positioned himself where he could see both the corridor and her room, his weapons ready despite the human's assurances. Old habits and old training. A guard commander never truly rested when his queen was threatened. She found that more comforting than all the humans' casual competence. Some things remained constant, even when the galaxy turned strange. Valora woke to the smell of something burning and the sound of enthusiastic human cursing. She was on her feet instantly, hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The door opened before she could reach it, revealing Chen with a tray of something that might generously be called food. "Breakfast," Chen announced. "Rodriguez was cooking, so it's either going to be amazing or potentially lethal. I'm betting on lethal, but Martinez says we should make the effort since you're technically royalty and all." It was, however, recognizable. Proteins and carbohydrates arranged in a way that accounted for her species' dietary needs. Someone had done their research. "Thank you," Valora said, accepting the tray. "Where's Kessa?" "Don't worry, she's safe. He's showing her how the reactor works." She's surprisingly good with spatial mathematics for her age, because of course her daughter was learning about human reactor technology while Valora slept. Normal royal protocol would have demanded 3 security assessments and a diplomatic briefing before allowing the heir to the throne anywhere near alien systems. Normal protocol didn't account for humans. Valora ate quickly and made her way to the engineering bay. The sight that greeted her stopped her mid-stride. Kessa was perched on a tool bench, her eyes bright with fascination, as Williams explained quantum field dynamics using hand gestures and what appeared to be children's building blocks. "So if you compress the field here," Williams was saying, "you get an exponential increase in energy output. But you have to balance it against the containment matrix, otherwise everything explodes," Kessa finished. "Exactly! Though we prefer to call it rapid, unscheduled energy dispersion. Sounds more professional in the reports." "Williams, stop teaching the princess how to build bombs," Martinez called from the doorway. He nodded to Valora. "Your Majesty. Sleep well?" "Well enough. My daughter appears to be receiving an education in weapons design."
The weapons applications are purely theoretical.
"Mostly." Kessa spotted her mother and bounded over. "Mama, did you know humans power their ships by making tiny stars and trapping them in boxes? And they've crashed 5 times in the last year because they keep pushing the engines past safe limits." 4 times, Rodriguez said, entering with a toolkit. "The Proxima incident doesn't count because we technically didn't crash. We just made unexpected contact with a planet." "At terminal velocity," Chen added. "Still not a crash." These humans who'd casually slaughtered Kravathi apparently approached space travel with the same reckless disregard for safety protocols. "Moving on," Martinez said, clearly reading her expression. "We've been analyzing the assassination attempt. Thex has been helpful providing context on court politics." He pulled up a tactical display. "Kavros has support from approximately 40% of your noble houses. Not enough for a direct challenge, but enough to make a coup attempt viable if you're removed from the equation." "And my daughter?" Martinez's expression darkened. "The intelligence suggests she was considered acceptable collateral damage." "Kavros plans to assume regency for your younger brother's son." More malleable. Cold fury settled in Valora's chest. Killing her was politics. Targeting Kessa was unforgivable. "What do you recommend?" "Gather evidence, expose the conspiracy, let the justice system handle it." Martinez met her eyes. "But you're asking what I actually recommend." "Strike hard, strike fast, remove the threat permanently before they can regroup." "Back. You're suggesting I execute a sitting duke without trial?" "I'm suggesting you remove a clear and present danger to you and your daughter. How you choose to frame that is your business." It was pure human pragmatism. No political maneuvering, no consideration for tradition or protocol, just cold assessment of threat and response. The council would never accept. "Respectfully, Your Majesty, screw the council. They didn't save you. They didn't protect your daughter. They won't be the ones dealing with the next assassination attempt." Martinez leaned forward. "You're thinking like a politician. Start thinking like a survivor. I have responsibilities beyond my own survival." "Yeah, and one of those responsibilities is not dying and leaving your people to Kavros's mercy. You think he'll be a gentle ruler? You think he'll honor the principles your court was founded on?" Martinez gestured to Kessa. "You think he'll let her live once he's consolidated power?" The answer to all 3 questions was no, and they both knew it. "What's your plan?" Valora asked quietly. Martinez smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "We do what humans do best. We cheat." Valora listened to Martinez outline it with growing horror and grudging admiration. It violated every rule of engagement, every principle of honorable combat, every tradition of civilized warfare. It would absolutely work. "You want to kidnap Kavros in the middle of his own stronghold," she summarized, "using disguises, forged credentials, and what you're calling aggressive social engineering. The impolite version involves me pretending to be a health inspector and Rodriguez setting off fire alarms in 3 separate sections to create confusion. We've done it before," Chen added. "Worked great on that Centauri trade minister. Well, great for us, less great for him. This is madness. The security around Kavros's estate is impenetrable. Military-grade shields, automated defenses, guards who've been with his family for generations. All designed to stop conventional assault," Martinez agreed. "Nobody plans for 4 humans walking in the front door with fake inspection paperwork and absolutely zero shame. I cannot authorize this," Valora said. "I cannot ask you to risk your lives on such a reckless plan." "We're volunteering." Martinez pulled up schematics of Kavros's estate. "Here's the thing about security systems. They're designed by people who think about security in specific ways. They imagine military strikes, infiltration teams, sophisticated electronic warfare. They don't imagine a maintenance worker with a coffee mug walking past 3 checkpoints because everyone assumes he belongs there. Social camouflage," Chen explained. "Humans figured out thousands of years ago that the best disguise is acting like you're supposed to be somewhere. Guards won't question confidence." "That's insane," Thex insisted. Yep. "That's why it works." Valora wanted to refuse, wanted to find a more dignified solution, something that didn't involve humans casually describing infiltration techniques like they were discussing lunch plans. But she looked at Kessa, thought about the cousin who'd been willing to kill a child for political gain, and made her decision. "How long do you need to prepare?" "Already done," Martinez said. "We've been running reconnaissance while you were sleeping. Shift change at Kavros's estate happens in 6 hours. We'll go in with the evening maintenance crew, locate Kavros, extract him to a secure location, and let you ask him pointed questions about his life choices. You're not going to kill him?" Martinez looked genuinely offended. "We're not assassins, Your Majesty. We're very expensive kidnappers with excellent medical insurance. There's a difference." The distinction seemed minor to Valora, but she let it pass. "I'm coming with you," she announced. "Negative," Martinez said immediately. "Too dangerous. You're the primary target. We're not walking you into a potential combat zone. Kavros will never believe you're acting on my authority without proof. I need to be there to confront him directly. Then we bring a video message, which he'll claim is fabricated. This requires my physical presence." They stared at each other, Queen and mercenary captain, wills clashing in the confined space of the wardroom. Finally, Martinez looked away. "Fine, but you follow my orders exactly. No royal privilege, no protocol, no deviating from the plan. You're just another team member, and team members follow commands. Agreed?" It galled her to submit to a commoner's authority, but Valora had learned something in the past day. Humans earned their authority through competence, not birth, and Martinez had competence in abundance. "Agreed. What about me?" Kessa asked. "You," Valora said firmly, "are staying here with Rodriguez. That's non-negotiable." Kessa's lower lip trembled, but she nodded. "Promise you'll come back?" Valora pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her, committing this moment to memory in case it was the last. "I promise, little moon." She linked her smallest finger with her daughter's. Pinky promise. 6 hours later, Valora found herself wearing ill-fitting maintenance coveralls with a fake identification badge that proclaimed her to be Vekla, Senior Atmospheric Technician. The humans had done something to her appearance. Subtle alterations that left her recognizable to anyone who knew her well, but unremarkable to casual observation. "Remember," Martinez murmured as they approached the estate's service entrance, "you're tired, you're underpaid, and you really don't want to be here. Most people are invisible when they're doing jobs no one else wants to do." The guard at the entrance barely glanced at their credentials before waving them through, just as Martinez had predicted. They moved through the estate's service corridors with practiced ease. Williams occasionally consulted a tablet, navigating through the labyrinth of passages that kept the machinery of aristocratic life hidden from noble eyes. Twice they passed other workers. Twice those workers nodded greeting and continued on without a second glance. "This is too easy," Thex whispered. He'd insisted on coming despite his reservations about the plan. "That's because you're thinking like security," Chen replied. "Security focuses on threats. Nobody thinks maintenance workers are threats. They reached the private wing, where Kavros maintained his personal quarters. Here the security increased, guards at intervals, biometric scanners, the whole array of deterrents. Martinez didn't even slow down. He walked directly to the nearest guard with his tablet held up, displaying what looked like a critical system alert. "Environmental breach in the Duke's quarters," he said in passable but accented Galactic common. "Atmospheric processors showing contamination. Need immediate access for testing. Training warring with protocol. An environmental breach was serious, but allowing unknown workers into the Duke's private space." "Look," Martinez said, letting frustration creep into his voice, "I can come back tomorrow if you want. Explain to the Duke why you let him breathe potentially toxic air all night, because you wanted to check credentials that you can clearly see are valid." He gestured to his badge. The guard made his decision. Make it quick. Kavros's quarters were everything Valora expected. Opulent, tasteful, decorated with wealth accumulated through generations of political maneuvering. The Duke himself was in his study, reviewing documents on a holographic display. He looked up in confusion as they entered. "What is the meaning of—" Recognition and fear flashed across his face in equal measure. "Hello, cousin," Valora said, dropping the accent and posture of a maintenance worker. "I believe we need to talk about your recent career decisions." Kavros lunged for an alarm. Chen was faster. The human moved like liquid, crossing the distance and putting a blade to the Duke's throat before his finger touched the panel. "I wouldn't," Chen said pleasantly. "I'm really good with knives, but I'd hate to slip and accidentally open something important." "You can't do this," Kavros gasped. "I'm a Duke. I have rights." The council doesn't know you're missing yet," Martinez interrupted. "And by the time they find out, you're going to have explained exactly who helped you plan an assassination attempt on your queen and her daughter." "I don't know what you're talking about." Williams held up his tablet, displaying financial records, communication logs, meeting schedules. "We have everything, Your Grace. Every transaction, every message, every conspirator. We're just giving you the opportunity to cooperate before we turn this over to people who are way less friendly than we are." "Who are you?" Kavros demanded, looking at the humans with growing horror. "We're nobody," Martinez said. "Just some freelance contractors who really don't appreciate people trying to kill kids. Now, are we going to do this the easy way or the way that requires medical attention?" Kavros looked at Valora, seeking some sign that this was bluff or theater. She kept her face impassive, channeling every lesson in royal composure she'd ever learned. Her cousin broke. "It wasn't personal," he said weakly. "It was just politics. You were blocking necessary reforms. I was protecting our people from your ambition," Valora cut in, "and you tried to kill my daughter for it." She would have been quick, painless. "More mercy than you're showing me?" The casual dismissal of Kessa's life ignited something cold and furious in Valora's chest. She'd been prepared to be civilized about this, to follow protocol and law, but looking at her cousin's face, seeing not remorse but irritation at being caught, she understood what Martinez had been trying to tell her. "Sometimes civilization was a luxury you couldn't afford. Tell me who else is involved," she said quietly. "Every name, every connection, every plan. Tell me everything, and I'll let you live to face trial." "And if I don't?" "Then we get creative," Martinez said. "And humans are really, really good at creativity." Names spilled out of him like water from a broken dam. Nobles, administrators, military officers, even members of the council itself. The conspiracy was wider and deeper than Valora had imagined. A cancer that had metastasized through every level of her government. Martinez recorded everything, his expression never changing as the scale of the betrayal became clear. When Kavros finally fell silent, exhausted and broken, the human shut off the recording device. "What happens now?" Kavros asked. "Now," Valora said, "you go somewhere very secure while I decide what to do with you and your co-conspirators. The council will never accept evidence obtained through kidnapping and coercion. Neither do you." They smuggled Kavros out the same way they'd come in. Through service corridors, past guards who never looked twice at maintenance workers escorting a colleague who'd had too much to drink. By the time anyone noticed the Duke was missing, the Nightingale was already breaking orbit. Valora sat in the wardroom, reviewing the recordings, her mind racing through political calculations and security assessments. The conspiracy was too large to dismantle quietly, too connected to remove without destabilizing the entire government. "You're thinking about it wrong," Martinez said, appearing with 2 cups of something hot and caffeinated. "You're thinking about how to fix the system. Sometimes you have to break it first." "I'm a queen. My responsibility is stability. Your responsibility is survival. Stability comes second. He slid a cup toward her. Want my advice? I'm paying you 10,000 credits per day. I should hope I get some advice. Martinez smiled. Go public. Not with the council, with your people. Release the recordings, expose every traitor, and let popular outrage do the work for you. The council can't protect conspirators when the entire population is demanding justice. That would cause chaos. Yes. And in that chaos, you consolidate your power, remove your enemies, and rebuild from a position of strength. It's not elegant, it's not clean, but it works. The suggestion violated everything she'd been taught about governance and stability. It was reckless, dangerous, and would cause untold short-term suffering. It was also exactly what she needed to do. Help me draft a statement, she said. The broadcast went out 6 hours later. Valora appeared on every screen in the Ninth Celestial Court's territory, her daughter beside her, and told her people the truth. About the assassination attempt, about the conspiracy, about the nobles and administrators who'd been willing to kill their queen and a child for political gain. Then she released the recordings.
The reaction was immediate and violent.
Riots broke out on 4 major worlds. 3 governors were removed from office by angry mobs. The council called for emergency sessions that devolved into shouting matches as conspirators tried to defend themselves and failed. Kavros's estate burned. Someone, probably several someones, decided that legal justice was too slow and uncertain. Through it all, the humans watched with professional detachment. They'd positioned themselves between Valora and any potential threat, turning the Nightingale into a mobile fortress that dared anyone to approach. Your Majesty, Thex said on the 3rd day of chaos, the Council is demanding your return to address them. The Council can demand all they want, Valora replied. I'll return when it's safe. Begging your pardon, but it will never be safe. There will always be threats, always be conspirators. You cannot hide forever. I'm not hiding. I'm waiting. For what? For the right moment. The chaos had burned itself out, leaving a population exhausted but united in their anger at the betrayal. The Council had purged its most obvious conspirators and was desperate for stability. The military had declared loyalty to the Crown after Martinez provided evidence of planned treason in their ranks. The galaxy was watching. Humanity's newest members had saved a queen and exposed a conspiracy that shook one of the oldest civilizations in known space. And Valora was ready to go home. The Nightingale docked at the royal station with full ceremony. Valora emerged with Kessa at her side and 4 humans behind her, their presence a statement that needed no explanation.
The council had assembled to receive her.
They knelt as protocol demanded, but Valora could see the calculation in their eyes. She was stronger now, had survived an attempt on her life, had exposed traitors in their midst, but she'd also violated countless protocols, worked with aliens, and caused 3 weeks of destabilizing chaos. They didn't know how to deal with her anymore. Good. Your Majesty, the council speaker said carefully, we rejoice at your safe return. The Council stands ready to assist in restoring order and investigating the conspiracy to its fullest extent. The investigation is complete, Valora said. All evidence has been provided to military intelligence and civilian law enforcement. Those responsible will face justice. The Council should oversee such proceedings. The Council will do as I command, Valora interrupted. Or have you forgotten that I am your queen, not your colleague? Of course, Your Majesty. We serve at your pleasure. Valora surveyed the assembled nobles and administrators. Some looked relieved at her return. Others looked nervous. A few looked resentful. She made note of all of them. I have learned something in recent weeks, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. I learned that the deadliest predators in the galaxy can be defeated by those who refuse to accept fear as inevitable. I learned that strength comes not from tradition or protocol, but from the will to survive and protect what matters most. She gestured to the humans behind her. These beings saved my life and my daughter's life when our own systems failed. They did it without hesitation, without consideration for reward, simply because it was the right thing to do. She paused, letting that sink in. From this day forward, the Ninth Celestial Court enters into formal alliance with humanity. We will share technology, trade, and military cooperation. And Captain Martinez and his team will serve as my personal guard until such time as I can trust my own people not to try to kill me. The chamber erupted in protest. Too fast, too reckless, humans were unknown, this violated protocol. Valora waited for the noise to die down. When it didn't, she simply stood there, patient and immovable, until shame and protocol forced silence. I have spoken, she said quietly. If any member of this council disagrees with my decision, they are welcome to tender their resignation. I will accept it without prejudice. No one resigned. Good. Then we have work to do. Dismissed. As the council filed out, Valora felt the weight of centuries of tradition shifting on her shoulders. She'd broken rules that had governed her court for generations. She'd allied with aliens who barely understood civilization as her people defined it. She'd also saved her daughter and her throne. Martinez approached with his usual casual confidence. That went well. You have a strange definition of well. Nobody died, nobody declared war, and you're still queen. That's a win in my book. He paused. You know you just painted a target on your back even bigger than before, right? The traditionalists will never forgive you for this. I know. Valora looked down at Kessa, who was holding Chen's hand and pestering her with questions about human combat techniques. But I'd rather be a queen who lives than a martyr who's remembered fondly. We should put that on a t-shirt. A what? Human thing? I'll explain later. Martinez gestured to his team. So, about that alliance, any chance it comes with actual military support? Because our ship is holed together with optimism and spite, and we could really use an upgrade. These impossible humans who'd crashed into her life and turned everything upside down. These strange, violent, irreverent beings who'd looked at the galaxy's nightmares and laughed. I think we can arrange something, she said. Kessa looked up at her mother with bright, curious eyes. Mama, can I learn to fight like humans? Valora opened her mouth to say no, to explain that princesses didn't need to know combat, that such things were beneath their station. Then she thought about the Kervathi, about conspirators and assassination attempts, about how close she'd come to losing everything. Yes, little moon. I think that would be wise. The galaxy had gotten strange. The deadliest predators had met their match, and somewhere in the chaos and change, the Ninth Celestial Court was learning a lesson humanity had known for millennia. The scariest thing in the universe isn't the biggest or strongest or most heavily armed. It's the one that refuses to give up.